Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. One of my viewers wanted me to talk about dealing with a light-skin identity crisis. Now, a light-skin identity crisis is something that a biracial black person or a light-skinned black person deals with, and in some cases it's something that a Asian or Hispanic person winds up struggling with. Now, this light-skin identity crisis is where an individual wants to go out here and forsake their racial or ethnic identity in order to try to be what they think is white. Now, I go in depth on this in my novel, Spellbound, and a person with a light-skin identity crisis is spellbound. Basically, they want to go out here and forsake their race or their ethnicity in order to fit into a box where they will be not only accepted by white people, they will also be accepted as a white person. So this is a person who really just wants to go out here and give up all of their actual racial identity in order to be white. And this is where this individual has an identity crisis as related to their race or their ethnicity. Now, there are films that go in depth on this light-skin identity crisis, and these are films that I have watched when I was doing my research for the novel Spellbound, and also films that I have watched to do research as related to the whole struggles of being a light-skinned black person. Now, these are films such as Pinky, I Passed for White, and Hi, Yellow, and the whole concept of all of these films is you had a biracial black person who almost looked like a white person, and what they wanted to do was go out here and be able to assimilate into white society, and this caused a conflict because this person knew that they were actually black, and because they knew they were black, they had an issue as related to the whole issue of their racial identity, and what they wanted was to be accepted as white, but because they knew that they had a black parent, they could not accept that in themselves. Now, this is what lays the foundation for the paradigm of the tragic mulatto, which is presented in many of Hollywood and and the mainstream media's ideals as related to a biracial or a light-skinned black person, and in some cases even a Hispanic or an Asian person. The whole point is that since this person longs and desires to be accepted as white, they have an issue in life that makes them feel miserable, and in the case of the tragic mulatto paradigm, they believe that they are destined to a life of misery because of the one drop of blackness inside of them or the other ethnicities that they have, being Hispanic or Asian, and because they have this one part of them that prevents them from being 100% white, what that person does is they feel like they cannot be a part of the white world and be accepted in white society and receive all of the benefits of white society that white people wind up having. And because these individuals feel like they cannot receive all of the privileges of white, what they do is have this guilt about going out here and walking away from their families, walking away from their friends that are black, or in some cases Asian and Hispanic, and these people basically feel such great guilt that this is the thing that winds up plaguing them and making their lives miserable as they try to pass. So what they do is they wind up, in many of the tragic mulatto stories, winding up becoming alcoholics, winding up becoming drug addicts, and many of these stories end in tragedy where this person winds up committing suicide because they cannot just fit into that white world and be a part of what they think is the better life as being white. Now, in my novel Spellbound, I go in a different direction where I talk about how the Matilda Crowley character basically wants to be black, and the whole point of the story is she's dealing with this whole narrative of the tragic mulatto, where she wants to be a part of the black world, but the whole thing is she's dealing with spellbound individuals who don't want to accept her in the world. And as she deals with this whole issue of race and identity, she realizes that she can be her own version of black. And as she becomes her own version of black, she transforms herself into the Black Widow, a whole take on being black, where she's saying that, yes, I have the skin that looks almost white, but I love being black, and I want to express that by going out here and presenting my blackness, because people misunderstand that. They think that I'm trying to pass, but that she loves blackness so much that she goes out here and presents her love for black by showing all of the traits that she saw was positive of being black from her mother. And that's how she overcomes the identity crisis that people are trying to put on her as related to race, and walks off the what I call yellow brick road to hell, and walks on the road to the light, where she can be the person that God wants her to be. And that's the sad part about many people who have the light skin identity crisis, is that they're walking down this road of darkness, and they're walking down this road of darkness hoping to find acceptance from white people, and they hope that if they'll let them in and be white, they will be somebody. But what they're walking on is a false road to worship a false god. And that's what these people do, is they deify and worship whiteness to the point where they even go to extremes in some cases, where in the case of some of these light-skinned or biracial black people, they will go out here and dye their hair blonde. They will go out here and put on blue contacts. They will go out here and, in some cases, if they're light-skinned like myself, go out here bleaching their skin, and they will go to the extremes in these cases because they believe they can be something like, some way white. And even when it comes down to some Hispanics, they will do the same thing, dyeing their hair blonde, putting on blue contacts. Same thing with Asians, who will also go to the extremes of going out here and having surgery on their eyes. And these individuals basically will go out here and disfigure themselves, all because they worship on the altar of whiteness. And this makes it where they have this issue as related to their identity. They believe a white identity is superior to their own identity, and they're willing to sacrifice everything that makes them unique and distinct in order to be a part of white society. And these people usually have, again, an identity issue that really just evolves into self-hatred, because when you get to the point where you're worshiping at the altar of white and you're willing to disfigure yourself to become white, what you think is white, what happens is you no longer are yourself. No, what you are is a caricature of white. And what it is that you think that you're looking white, but you're looking ridiculous, because what you're doing is being an imitation of a white person. And this is something that was gone in depth on in the classic 1934 cinematic movie Imitation of Life, and later more in depth in the 1959 remake of Imitation of Life. And this is what makes a person an imitation of a white person, not the real thing. And this is where many of these light-skinned people really start to feel guilty, because they know that everything as related to their life is nothing but a lie. And again, that further exacerbates the identity crisis in them, because they know that they have compromised their ethics in order to fit themselves into that white box and be accepted as white. Many of these individuals know they are not a real white person. No, they know that they are a pale imitation of a white person, and they live with that guilt because they know that they're lying to all the people around them. They know they're lying to all the people they're having relationships with. They know that they're lying to everyone that they're interacting with, and what they do is they live in constant fear that somebody is going to go out here and pull the wool off of everybody's eyes and show everybody the truth about them, and that they're out here living this double life where they're living this life where they're pretending to be white, but they know deep down inside they are either black, Hispanic, or Asian, and because they know they are of a different race, they fear that if people find out that they're different, what they'll do is reject them. But people just are rejecting them because of their complete lack of ethics and because they have no ethics whatsoever. This is the main reason why people didn't want to deal with people with this kind of identity crisis, because they violated their trust by lying to them. If these people were honest, they would have, again, the abundant life that the Most High wants you to have, because the Most High doesn't really see race as it comes to people. No, everybody is a member of the Messiah's order, and everybody is a part of that order who is out here to serve him. So the whole idea of light skin means nothing, but we make it into something because a lot of these people have bought into the system of white supremacy, and because they have bought into the system of white supremacy, they have bought into the hierarchies that white supremacy has set up, where it makes you believe that a person who has lighter skin is better than someone who is of darker skin or of a different race. But that is nothing to God's order, because God made everyone different. And again, this light skin identity crisis isn't something that you need to worry about, because again, this is not something that you should be afraid of, because again, skin tone doesn't mean anything as related to content of character. No, content of character is more important than skin tone, and a person who has character is going to be honest about who they are and is going to be open about who they are, like Matilda did in Spellbound. In Spellbound, Matilda is accepting of her blackness and says, I'm a black woman, and it's not about the skin tone. Her mother was black, so she says, if my mother taught me a culture of being black and has me living in Harlem around black people, then she, as she says, she is a black woman. So she's not out here dealing with that light skin identity crisis that other people have, and she learns to break out of the whole paradigm of being a tragic mulatto and triumphs over the tragedy. And that's what a lot of people who have the light skin identity crisis have to learn. You can triumph over this whole tragic mulatto paradigm and this identity crisis, because there's no need to be accepted by a system of white supremacy that is anti-black, a system that makes you feel like you are less than because you are not white. No, you are a part of God's order and one of God's creations, and he loves you because he made you the way he wants you to be. And again, you have to accept who you are, because if you accept who you are, you won't be out here with a light skin identity crisis, because the only place where this whole light skin, dark skin paradigm is important is in the system of white supremacy, where it's all about skin tones for these individuals, and what they want to do is brainwash people into following these hierarchies so that they can go out here and try to climb the social ladder to be accepted by white people. And again, when you do this, you're deifying and worshiping white people, and that really violates the word of God, which states that ye shall have no other gods before me in the first commandment of the Old Testament. And in the New Testament, the Most High said, as the Messiah was giving out his instructions in his 2 commandments, he said to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and strength. And if you love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and strength, you're not going to buy into the social hierarchy of white supremacy and think that light skin is preferential to darker skin, or that lighter skin is better than darker skin, because that's where the identity crisis starts, because you want to be accepted by these whites and pass for white because you think that they have the greatest privilege. But there is no privilege to be in white supremacy. No, the whole system of white supremacy is a lie crafted by the devil, and it's a system filled with lies that will have you chasing a whole bunch of false stuff and have you worshiping at the altar of a false god. a false god that will have you living a life in misery instead of living the abundant life that the Most High and the Messiah want you to live. Now, this was a video requested by one of my viewers, and if you want to request a video, you can send a donation to the Cash App the way this viewer did by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to learn more about trying to break out of the paradigm of the tragic mulatto and overcoming the light-skin identity crisis, you can pick up my novel Spellbound on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find Spellbound at other online booksellers like Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target in paperback, and you can also find it in digital format at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, and every other online bookstore on the internet. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Isis, Imitation of Life. The Goddess Next Door helps a young black girl overcome racism during the era of Jim Crow in this Golden Age Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Imitation of Life in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.